From the moment Jake the dog stretches into view, his presence alters the rhythm of Adventure Time. Where most characters in OO move with bursts of urgency, saving kingdoms, chasing love, fleeing danger, Jake moves through existence with a kind of serene momentum. He doesn't hurry, he doesn't brood, he flows. His chill is not laziness or apathy, it's philosophy. It's the quiet understanding that life, no matter how wild or unpredictable, is meant to be lived, not controlled. And in that understanding, Jake becomes one of the show's wisest voices, a being who teaches through ease, not through effort. At first glance, his philosophy seems simple. Relax, enjoy yourself, don't overthink it. But as OO reveals its deeper layers, cosmic cycles, reincarnation, magic, and loss, Jake's approach begins to look less like comedy and more like enlightenment. He embodies a worldview that balances humour with wisdom, indulgence with restraint, and detachment with compassion. His chill is not the absence of care, but the art of caring without being consumed. Jake's calmness stands as a contrast to the world around him. OO is a place born of chaos, a post-apocalyptic landscape disguised by candy colours and whimsy. It's filled with ancient sorrows, endless wars, and characters haunted by loss or obsession. Amid that, Jake lounges in the sun, cooks breakfast, and takes naps mid-adventure. It's easy to mistake his attitude for ignorance, but time and again the show reveals that Jake sees the big picture more clearly than almost anyone else. His detachment is wisdom disguised as goofiness. He recognizes that the universe is too vast, too unpredictable, to fight against constantly. To live fully, he must flow with it. His shape-shifting powers serve as a visual metaphor for this worldview. Jake can become anything, a giant, a monster, a key, a bridge, yet he never loses his sense of self. He doesn't cling to any single form or identity. He's endlessly flexible, physically and spiritually. When the world changes shape, Jake changes with it. He doesn't resist the transformation, he embraces it. In that way, he mirrors the Buddhist principle of impermanence, that everything is in flux, and peace comes not from control, but from acceptance. Jake's chill extends to his moral philosophy. He doesn't preach about good and evil. He acts out of affection and intuition. He helps those he loves, because helping feels right, not because he's chasing virtue or destiny. When Finn dives into battle, Jake follows not out of duty, but loyalty. He knows when to step back and let others find their own lessons, and when to step in and keep them from falling apart. His relaxed nature allows him to exist in harmony with others' chaos. He doesn't try to fix everyone, he simply stands beside them until they find balance again. What Jake teaches, through his every word and movement, is that peace isn't a state you reach after conquering your fears or mastering the world. It's something you practice in the middle of the storm. His calm is active, not passive. Even in the moments where he appears to be doing nothing, he is demonstrating a radical kind of engagement with life, one that refuses panic, refuses despair, and instead seeks the simple beauty of being. Consider the way he interacts with Finn. Jake never forces him to act a certain way, never demands that Finn learn lessons quickly. He allows mistakes to unfold naturally. To Jake, growth is not something you push through. It's something that ripens in its own time. His chill isn't apathy, it's patience. He trusts that the world will teach, that pain will subside, that joy will return. This trust in the natural rhythm of life is what makes him a teacher, even though he never claims to be one. This ease is also rooted in Jake's understanding of himself. Unlike many in OO, who wrestle with their identity or purpose, Jake has already made peace with who he is. He's aware of his odd powers, his flaws, his occasional selfishness, and he accepts them without shame. That self-acceptance becomes a model for everyone around him. He doesn't waste energy pretending to be wiser or stronger than he is. His authenticity is disarming. It makes others feel safe enough to be themselves too. But Jake's philosophy isn't without depth or cost. His chill doesn't mean he's blind to pain or loss. In fact, his calm comes precisely because he understands impermanence. He knows that joy fades, that loved ones age, that even he will someday pass on. Instead of running from that truth, he leans into it. His ability to find laughter in the face of sadness is what gives his worldview its weight. It's not the easy laugh of denial, it's the gentle chuckle of understanding. Jake has seen that the world is fragile and fleeting, but he still believes it's worth enjoying every second of it. Throughout the series, Jake's actions reinforce this belief. When faced with danger, he rarely panics. When friends argue, he diffuses tension with a joke. When life offers uncertainty, he treats it as an adventure. His chill isn't about staying still, it's about staying steady. Even when the universe throws him into cosmic strangeness, time loops, dream realms, or divine encounters, Jake's reaction is always the same. A mix of awe, humor, and acceptance. Where others spiral, he smiles. His relationship with Prismo amplifies this perspective. Through their bond, Jake glimpses realities far beyond the material world. Reincarnation, dream existence, the cycle of life and death. And yet none of this disturbs his peace. He doesn't crave immortality or fear dissolution. Instead, he finds comfort in knowing that existence, in any form, continues. His friendship with Prismo represents the balance between material and spiritual life. One lives inside the world, the other lives within dreams, and Jake bridges them, both without losing himself to either. In this way, Jake's chill becomes something cosmic, a kind of enlightenment reached not through study or asceticism, but through joy. He finds spiritual truth not in temples or battles, but in breakfast, friendship, and laughter. His ease with the universe doesn't make him indifferent, it makes him grateful. He lives every day as though he's already glimpsed eternity and found it beautiful. It's telling that Jake doesn't seek answers. He lives as though the answers don't need to be spoken. They're already present in every moment. This is why he so often shrugs off questions of destiny or meaning. For him, life's mystery isn't something to solve, but something to experience. That is his philosophy of chill, to understand that everything is already enough. Yet beneath that lightness lies quiet depth. Jake's detachment could easily have turned to isolation, but it never does, because his love anchors him. His bond with Finn, Lady Rainicorn, his children, and even Oo itself keeps him connected to the world's small joys. His chill doesn't float above life, it moves through it. He can meditate on cosmic truths and still show up for breakfast. He can joke in a moment of crisis because he knows that fear only multiplies chaos. His humour becomes a form of compassion, a way of reminding others to breathe, to step back, to remember the bigger picture. Jake's philosophy also teaches that power and peace are not opposites. He's one of the most powerful beings in Oo, but he rarely uses that power for dominance. His strength lies in restraint. He knows that not every problem needs to be punched or stretched away. Sometimes the real act of heroism is staying calm when everything else is falling apart. There's a lesson in his simplicity too. Jake lives by instinct. He eats when he's hungry, sleeps when he's tired, helps when he's needed, loves when he can. It sounds basic, but it's the kind of wisdom that civilizations forget. He reminds us that life's most profound truths don't require grandeur, they just require presence. He embodies the idea that enlightenment isn't about escaping the world, it's about being at peace within it. Over time, Jake's philosophy of chill spreads quietly through those around him. Finn learns patience, BMO learns wonder. Even Princess Bubblegum, whose mind is constantly burdened by responsibility, learns from Jake's ability to let go. He's not a loud teacher, but his lessons ripple outward. Every time he sits back and lets the world unfold, he invites everyone else to see that things will be okay. Jake's presence shows that wisdom doesn't have to be solemn. It can laugh, it can nap, it can make pancakes. The truest form of peace in Jake's world is living without tension between what is and what could be. To Jake, the universe isn't something to conquer, it's something to hang out with. In the end, the philosophy of chill is Jake's way of showing that joy can coexist with impermanence, and that peace isn't the absence of struggle, but the ability to move through it gracefully. His wisdom isn't lofty or abstract, it's lived. It's in every stretch, every laugh, every time he tells someone not to worry too much. Through his calmness, Jake teaches that enlightenment doesn't come from searching for meaning, it comes from being meaning, effortlessly, in each moment. That's what Jake really represents. The quiet, lasting truth that to be alive is enough if you can learn to relax into it. If Jake's philosophy of chill is his compass, then his lack of fear is the horizon it points toward. In a world where danger comes in countless forms, monsters, curses, magic gone wrong, the collapse of time itself, Jake's calm fearlessness becomes almost supernatural. Yet his courage doesn't come from denial or arrogance. It comes from understanding. Jake doesn't live without fear because he's too brave to feel it. He lives without fear because he's made peace with what fear really is. Fear, in the land of U, is often tied to change, the fear of loss, of failure, of endings. Characters across the series are shaped by it. Princess Bubblegum fears disorder. Finn fears being alone. Ice King fears irrelevance. Even the universe itself seems to tremble before entities like Golb, where meaning collapses into chaos. But Jake moves through these fears as if he sees their illusion. He knows that everything changes, everything fades, and yet everything continues in a new form. For Jake, this understanding turns fear into curiosity. Instead of dreading what's next, he welcomes it. Jake's fearlessness isn't loud or boastful. It's quiet, gentle, and deeply rooted in acceptance. When trouble comes, he doesn't rush into battle screaming for glory. He stretches into it, calmly, like water finding its way around a rock. His movements are relaxed, his tone casual, even in danger. To outsiders, it looks like he doesn't care, but that's not true. Jake cares, he just doesn't cling. His refusal to panic isn't detachment, it's trust. Trust that whatever happens, he'll find his way through. That trust comes from a lifetime of learning to flow with change. Jake's entire body embodies impermanence. He can shift shapes, sizes, and even stretch across dimensions, yet always return to himself. There's no fear of losing identity because his sense of self isn't bound to a single form. This physical truth mirrors his emotional one. Life will stretch you, reshape you, sometimes break you, but you can always return to who you are if you don't resist the stretch. His fearlessness also grows from a profound relationship with mortality. Jake knows he's not immortal. He doesn't hide from that fact, nor does he fight it. He accepts that one day he will die, and that acceptance brings him peace rather than dread. This calm approach to death is one of the most radical things about him. While other beings in U, from wizards to rulers to gods, struggle to outwit or outrun mortality, Jake simply nods at it. To him, dying isn't an interruption of life's adventure. It's the next part of it. He doesn't need eternal life because he already feels eternal in the moment. That attitude becomes most clear when we see how Jake reacts to threats that would paralyze others. When confronted with cosmic beings, his instinct is never to panic or pray for survival. He treats them like anyone else. Not with disrespect, but with a kind of universal equality. To Jake, no one is above or below anyone else. Whether he's talking to a hero, a villain, or an abstract deity, his tone stays the same: warm, casual, human. This equal-footedness is part of his lack of fear. He doesn't inflate the universe into something distant and incomprehensible. For him, even the cosmos is part of the same big joke: vast, mysterious, but also friendly if you meet it with openness. In that way, Jake's life, without fear, becomes spiritual. He's not fearless because he's reckless. He's fearless because he feels connected. He doesn't see himself as separate from the world, and how can you fear something that you're a part of? His sense of unity with U, with its creatures and energies, gives him the kind of strength that doesn't need armor. He's protected by understanding, not by walls. This worldview is the foundation of his bond with Finn. Finn, especially in his early years, is a creature of passion. He charges into battle, heart blazing, determined to right every wrong. But Jake shows him that bravery isn't about ignoring fear, it's about seeing through it. Finn often needs to learn that lesson the hard way. When he rushes forward in anger or grief, Jake's presence grounds him, not with lectures, but with example. When Finn panics, Jake breathes. When Finn despairs, Jake cracks a joke. When Finn doubts himself, Jake reminds him that being alive, even in pain, is still something to celebrate. Through this quiet teaching, Jake helps Finn turn courage from reaction into reflection. This dynamic between them represents one of Adventure Time's most important balances: youthful urgency and mature acceptance. Jake's lack of fear doesn't extinguish Finn's fire, it shapes it. It teaches him to find strength in calmness, not just in passion. Over time, Finn stops fighting every storm and starts learning from them. Jake's influence transforms him from a boy trying to be a hero into a man who understands that peace is the ultimate form of bravery. Jake's relationship with fear also extends to the unknown. Most characters in U crave answers. They want to know why things happen, who they are, where they come from. Jake doesn't. His mind doesn't chase explanation, it seeks experience. He doesn't need to know why a magical anomaly occurs, he's just curious about what it feels like. This lack of obsession with understanding gives him a freedom that others never achieve. While Princess Bubblegum invents and Ice King obsesses, Jake simply lives. His curiosity is without anxiety. He moves through mystery, like someone floating down a river, admiring the scenery without needing to own it. And yet, Jake isn't naive. He knows pain. He's seen war, lost friends, and faced chaos that could break even the strongest hearts. But none of that erases his peace. Instead, each hardship deepens it. He knows that fear feeds on resistance. The more you fight it, the bigger it gets. So he doesn't fight. He acknowledges fear, nods to it, and lets it pass through him. This emotional fluidity makes him resilient in a way that few others are. His flexibility isn't just physical, it's spiritual. When Jake faces loss, his calm becomes even more meaningful. He doesn't deny grief, he holds it softly. To him, sadness isn't something to erase, but something to feel until it changes shape. His understanding of love and death is intertwined with his lack of fear. To love, truly, is to accept loss as part of the gift, and Jake, more than anyone, lives by that truth. He loves without clinging, and therefore never loses what he loves. It all continues within him. This fearlessness eventually leads Jake toward a kind of enlightenment. His connection to Prismo, a being who exists outside of time, opens him to ideas beyond life and death. Jake sees the cycles of existence play out not just in theory, but in reality, and when he witnesses the continuity of being, his peace deepens further. He no longer has any reason to fear the end, because he knows there isn't one. What we call death, to Jake, is simply transformation. Jake's life without fear can be seen as Adventure Time's emotional antidote to the world's chaos. Where others in OO wrestle with control, Jake trusts the process. Where others try to preserve themselves, Jake allows himself to dissolve into the moment. His peace doesn't come from ignorance, but from wisdom, the kind that knows there's no point in fighting what already is. There's also humility in his fearlessness. He never tries to convert others to his way of being. He doesn't boast about his calmness or turn it into superiority. He simply lives it. His ease becomes contagious. Around him, others relax. His presence softens conflict and invites laughter. Fear, after all, thrives in tension, and Jake dissolves tension wherever he goes. His laughter doesn't just entertain, it heals. What Jake teaches us through his life without fear is that peace isn't the opposite of danger. It's the space that exists even in the middle of it. Fear tells us that control is safety. Jake shows that surrender is stronger. His calm isn't numbness, it's intimacy with existence. He's so close to life, so comfortable inside it, that even when it changes shape, he remains steady. By the end of his story, Jake's fearlessness becomes the ultimate form of love. He's not afraid to lose, because he never stops giving. He's not afraid to end, because he understands that endings are only new beginnings. His peace, his laughter, and his trust in the flow of the universe create a kind of immortality, not of body, but of spirit. Jake lives without fear, because he knows the truth at the heart of Adventure Time, that everything changes, everything ends, and everything continues. To live without fear is not to be unshaken. It's to move with the shaking, to breathe through the storm, and to smile, knowing that even chaos has beauty. That is Jake's lesson, that courage is not the absence of fear, but the gentle acceptance that fear was never the enemy at all. If Jake's philosophy of chill defines how he lives, and his life without fear defines how he moves through the universe, then his relationship with Finn shows how those lessons are passed on, not through lectures or rules, but through quiet example. Finn is the fire, Jake is the water. Together, they form the heart of Adventure Time, a partnership that evolves from brotherhood into mentorship, from adventure into reflection. Jake never tries to mold Finn into a version of himself, yet he shapes Finn's entire moral and emotional foundation. He teaches him not through correction, but through coexistence, the slow, patient balance between impulse and acceptance. When we first see them, Finn burns with the kind of restless energy only youth can sustain. He leaps into every fight, every quest, convinced that heroism means always moving forward. Jake, by contrast, often lounges in the background, content to let the world unfold. This difference is the core of their dynamic. One is propelled by desire, the other by trust. Finn's instinct is to change the world. Jake's is to live with it. Over time, their friendship becomes a dialogue between those two ways of being, a tension that teaches both of them how to grow. Jake's greatest act as a mentor is restraint. He doesn't intervene every time Finn makes a mistake. He watches, advises lightly, and steps back. He understands that true wisdom cannot be handed down like a weapon. It has to be discovered. His trust in Finn's process is radical. He doesn't treat Finn as a student to correct, but as a soul to accompany. When Finn stumbles, Jake is there not to scold but to listen, to soften the moment with humour, to remind him that every failure is still part of the journey. This is how Jake teaches balance, not by eliminating Finn's extremes, but by creating space for them. He never tells Finn to stop being passionate or brave. He shows him how to temper that energy with understanding. When Finn's sense of justice becomes obsession, Jake reminds him that not everything can be fixed, and that's okay. When Finn's sadness becomes despair, Jake offers quiet presence instead of forced optimism. Through this patience, Finn learns the rhythm of living, that life isn't an endless sprint toward perfection, but a balance between action and rest, between love and loss, between doing and simply being. Jake's mentorship also reflects his deeper philosophy of trust. He trusts Finn's heart even when Finn's actions are messy. He believes that, given time, Finn will find the right answer. This unconditional belief gives Finn something no lecture could: the freedom to grow without fear. Jake's calm tells Finn that mistakes aren't the end of the world, that even pain can be part of becoming. In a land full of strange mentors, wizards, kings, cosmic entities, Jake's wisdom stands out because it's human. It's love disguised as patience. There's a subtle, often overlooked truth in how Jake balances Finn. He never forces him to adopt his chill. Jake knows that Finn's fire is sacred. He doesn't want to extinguish it. He wants to help Finn understand when to let it burn and when to rest. Many times, Jake joins Finn on reckless adventures, not because he wants to fight, but because he knows that walking beside him is the only way to help him learn. He meets Finn where he is. If Finn needs to chase danger, Jake stretches into that danger with him, not to control, but to witness. It's mentorship through companionship. This form of teaching is gentle but transformative. Finn's emotional development across the series, his evolving compassion, his ability to forgive, his acceptance of loss, all stem from Jake's presence. Jake shows him that strength isn't measured in victories, but in balance. When Finn learns to pause before acting, to reflect instead of react, to love without ownership, those are Jake's lessons manifesting quietly. Finn becomes not just a hero of action, but a hero of understanding. Jake's lessons are also deeply tied to humour. When Finn spirals into stress or guilt, Jake diffuses it with a joke. It might seem like deflection, but it's actually wisdom disguised as play. Humour, for Jake, is a bridge. It takes something heavy and makes it light enough to carry. Through laughter, he teaches Finn to keep perspective. The world is absurd and unpredictable, so sometimes the only rational response is joy. This balance between depth and silliness becomes a cornerstone of Finn's identity as he matures. Another layer to Jake's mentorship lies in his emotional honesty. Unlike many of Oo's adults, who hide pain or bury their insecurities, Jake doesn't pretend to have all the answers. He admits when he's scared, tired, or confused. This honesty shows Finn that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's part of being whole. By watching Jake live openly, Finn learns that heroes can rest, cry, and doubt themselves. Jake normalizes imperfection. He teaches that the goal isn't to become flawless, but to remain kind, even when you're lost. Jake's approach to guidance also reveals something about his understanding of time. He knows that every being moves at their own pace. He doesn't rush Finn toward maturity or pressure him to grow up. Instead, he recognizes that growing is circular, not linear. you revisit lessons, you repeat mistakes, you soften gradually. His patience with Finn mirrors the patience he has with the universe itself. In both, Jake trusts the process. Perhaps the most profound aspect of their relationship is how it reverses over time. As Finn grows older, the lessons he once received from Jake begin to return to him in new ways. Eventually, it's Finn who helps Jake understand himself, especially when Jake faces his own mortality and the limits of his power. Their dynamic becomes a cycle of learning, proof that true teaching is never one-directional. The student becomes the mirror through which the teacher sees his own growth. This symmetry gives their relationship a spiritual depth that extends far beyond the typical mentor trope. Jake's ability to teach balance isn't confined to moral lessons. It's physical and emotional at once. His flexible body symbolizes the balance he lives by. He can expand to meet danger or contract to retreat, whatever the situation requires. This elasticity becomes a metaphor for emotional adaptability. He teaches Finn that being strong doesn't mean being rigid, it means being able to bend without breaking. Finn internalizes this lesson not through words, but through years of watching Jake move through life. Their partnership also serves as a commentary on different kinds of wisdom. Finn's learning is driven by exploration and trial. Jake's comes from intuition and experience. Together, they represent the duality of youth and age, passion and peace. Jake never tries to turn Finn into himself, because he knows that balance isn't about sameness, it's about harmony between opposites. He sees that Finn's impulsive energy keeps him connected to wonder, while Jake's calmness keeps them grounded. Their bond isn't about agreement, it's about alignment. Jake's mentorship reaches beyond simple moral lessons. It shapes Finn's understanding of love. From Jake, Finn learns that relationships aren't about possession or perfection, but about coexistence. Jake's bond with Lady Rainicorn, his devotion to his children, and even his friendships all reflect a love that's steady rather than dramatic. Finn, who experiences heartbreak and longing throughout his life, watches Jake love quietly and realizes that love doesn't have to hurt to be real. That understanding becomes one of Finn's greatest sources of peace later in life. Jake also models the courage of inaction, the wisdom of knowing when not to interfere. In a world obsessed with doing, Jake reminds Finn that sometimes the kindest act is to simply be there. This subtle form of balance between helping and holding space is something Finn eventually passes on to others. It's what makes him a gentler leader and a more compassionate friend. Through Jake, Finn learns that being balanced doesn't mean being neutral, it means being rooted. Jake never avoids life's extremes. He just doesn't let them pull him apart. That stability becomes the invisible foundation of Finn's emotional resilience. It's why, even after loss and transformation, Finn remains open-hearted. Jake's lessons anchor him, a steady hum beneath the noise of Oo's chaos. By the time we reach the later stages of their story, Jake's influence on Finn feels almost sacred. Their adventures aren't just quests through forests and dungeons, they're meditations on how to live. Each journey becomes a small sermon in motion, Finn learning when to fight, when to laugh, when to rest, when to let go. And through it all, Jake's gentle wisdom weaves the invisible thread holding it together. In the end, teaching Finn balance isn't about taming his spirit, it's about guiding him towards self-understanding. Jake gives Finn the space to grow into someone who can live with both joy and sorrow, who can act bravely without losing tenderness. That's the essence of Jake's teaching, that true strength lies not in control, but in balance. Their relationship stands as the emotional core of Adventure Time, because it embodies the show's greatest lesson, that wisdom isn't about escaping chaos, but finding peace within it. Jake's calm and Finn's passion form a complete circle, endlessly teaching one another. In that circle, we see the most human truth of all, that love, when it's patient and kind, becomes the purest form of guidance. Jake teaches Finn that balance isn't something you find once and keep forever. It's something you practice every day, in laughter and in silence, in action and in stillness. And when Finn finally learns that, when he begins to live it, Jake's lessons become immortal, carried forward in every act of courage that also holds compassion, in every adventure that ends not with triumph, but with peace. There's a kind of quiet rebellion in the way Jake moves through life. In a world filled with kings, heroes, villains, and gods, all struggling under the burden of meaning, Jake lives without weight. Not because he is careless, but because he refuses to make life heavier than it already is. He doesn't chase glory, he doesn't crave validation, and he doesn't let the idea of duty harden his heart. Jake is perhaps the only true free spirit in Adventure Time. Not because the world has no claim on him, but because he's learned how to carry its chaos without letting it crush him. Every major figure in Ooh is, in some way, burdened. Princess Bubblegum is weighed down by responsibility, always trying to protect and perfect her kingdom. Finn, through most of his youth, carries the moral weight of wanting to be a hero, a saviour, even for a world that often resists saving. Ice King carries his loneliness, Marceline her memory, Simon his guilt, but Jake carries only what fits in his heart, and he puts down the rest. It's not ignorance, it's mastery. He understands something that few others do, that holding everything is not the same as caring deeply. Jake's lack of burden is not a flaw, it's a lesson. He lives his life with an internal balance so delicate and natural that it almost feels like a form of enlightenment. His refusal to carry unnecessary weight allows him to stay open, joyful, and adaptable. He doesn't resist the flow of life, he lets it move through him. When trouble arises, he doesn't internalize it. He deals with what he can, forgives what he must, and releases what he cannot change. This approach reveals one of the most understated truths in Adventure Time, that letting go is not apathy. Jake proves that detachment can coexist with love, that caring doesn't have to mean suffering. He loves his family, his friends, his world, but he never lets love turn into control. He's present without being possessive. This is why he can stay calm when others break down, why he can laugh when the universe trembles. Jake's peace isn't denial, it's trust in impermanence. He knows everything passes, and he loves it all anyway. His lightness is most evident when he contrasts with Princess Bubblegum. Where she sees every problem as a puzzle to solve, Jake sees it as weather to move through. He knows that some storms clear on their own. While PB is bound by intellect and duty, Jake is bound by nothing but the moment. And yet, his simplicity often cuts closer to truth than all her calculations. When others argue about ethics, morality, or destiny, Jake might simply say something like, "It's fine," and somehow it is fine. Not because he dismisses the problem, but because he sees it from a higher perspective, one free of ego and fear. This doesn't mean Jake avoids responsibility. He protects those he loves. He steps into danger when it matters. But he never carries the illusion that he can control the world. That humility is his strength. Many heroes crumble under the pressure of expectation, but Jake thrives because he refuses to let expectation shape his identity. He isn't trying to be the hero, he's just being Jake. He knows that purpose is found in being, not achieving. This mindset reflects a deeper spiritual truth. Freedom is not the absence of commitment, but the absence of attachment to outcomes. Jake loves deeply Lady Rainicorn, Finn, his children, but he doesn't cling to them. He doesn't demand that life be stable or predictable. His family can grow up, move away, make mistakes, and Jake will still smile, still love, still trust. It's this ease that lets him experience life fully, without drowning in it. His powers mirror this philosophy. Jake's stretching ability isn't just a physical gag, it's a visual metaphor for emotional flexibility. He can adapt to any shape, stretch to any need, and always return to center. He's the embodiment of flow, of a spirit that bends instead of breaks. When he fights, he rarely looks angry. When he's sad, he rarely looks defeated. His elasticity reflects his worldview. Everything changes, and that's okay. In contrast, Finn often carries every emotion like armor. He feels guilt for things beyond his control, grief for worlds beyond his reach. Jake gently shows him another way. He teaches that you can still care deeply without holding every pain forever. This is the heart of Jake's wisdom, to let go without letting down. He doesn't need to control what he loves to keep it safe. He trusts life itself to carry the rest. Jake's ability to live without weight also gives him a rare freedom of joy. Most of Oo's characters are defined by what they lack or what they seek. Jake, however, is defined by his contentment. He finds wonder in simple things: food, naps, jokes, songs. This simplicity isn't childish, it's sacred. It's the awareness that joy doesn't have to be earned. While others search for meaning in epic quests, Jake finds it in breakfast. This is what makes him so grounding. He locates peace not in the extraordinary, but in the ordinary. It's not that Jake hasn't known hardship. His life, too, has seen loss, confusion, and cosmic revelation. He has discovered that his father was an adventurer who vanished into the unknown, that he himself is connected to forces far beyond mortal comprehension. But instead of letting those revelations burden him, he accepts them as part of the great mystery. He doesn't let destiny define him. When the universe tries to give Jake a heavier story, he shrugs it off, laughs, and goes back to living. That's not ignorance, it's courage. What makes Jake truly remarkable is that he has access to the same tragedies as everyone else, yet he responds differently. Where others see weight, he sees flow. When the universe reveals its absurdity, Jake doesn't despair. He nods, as if to say, "Of course it's weird. Why wouldn't it be?" That kind of acceptance turns existence itself into a kind of play. And in play, the weight of the world loses its grip. His refusal to carry unnecessary weight is also an act of quiet resistance. In a world obsessed with identity, legacy, and power, Jake's ease becomes revolutionary. He refuses the myth that greatness requires suffering. He refuses the belief that love must be tragic to be meaningful. His happiness isn't naive, it's chosen. In a land born from the wreckage of apocalypse, Jake proves that peace is still possible. When he does take on responsibility for Finn, his children, or his world, he does it from love, not obligation. That's why he can carry it lightly. Obligation binds, love liberates. This distinction defines Jake's approach to life. He isn't avoiding the weight of duty, he's transforming it into joy. His way of helping others doesn't drain him, because it doesn't come from guilt or expectation. It comes from genuine connection. Jake's lightness is perhaps most visible in how he faces aging and change. As he grows older, as his adventures slow, he doesn't cling to the past. He doesn't mourn his youth or fear irrelevance. He moves gracefully into the next phase of existence. His peace with aging is an extension of his refusal to carry unnecessary weight, the weight of nostalgia, regret, or fear of endings. In a series that so often explores the anxiety of change, Jake embodies the opposite, serenity. His attitude, even toward death, is part of this same rhythm. Jake never treats mortality as a tragedy. For him, it's just another transformation. This calm understanding allows him to live more fully than those who cling to life. He knows that nothing truly ends, and so he doesn't waste his time clinging to what's already fading. This acceptance gives his joy an almost divine quality. It's unconditional. To live without weight, Jake has to live with trust. Trust in his friends, in his family, in the strange harmony of existence. And that trust pays off. Time and again, when Ooh teeters on the edge of chaos, it's Jake's calm faith that helps restore balance. He doesn't need to lead or fight for attention. His very presence stabilizes. That is the quiet power of the unburdened spirit. It radiates peace, and in doing so, it heals. Jake's lightness of being doesn't mean he's without depth. It means he's found a way to move through depth without drowning. He's not detached from the world, he's in love with it. But he loves it enough to let it be imperfect. That's the essence of the weight he never carried. The ability to hold life softly, to care without clinging, to give without expecting, and to live without dragging the past behind you. By the end of his story, we see that Jake's freedom was never an escape from responsibility, but a refinement of it. He shows that living well doesn't mean taking on every burden. It means choosing which ones truly matter. The secret of his peace is that he carries only what his heart can bear, and in doing so, he carries more than most. In a world where every being struggles beneath the gravity of existence, Jake the dog floats. Not away from life, but within it, weightless, fearless, and full of love. Jake's approach to love is the purest expression of who he is. Where others in Ooh wrestle with longing, heartbreak, and uncertainty, Jake loves with a kind of natural grace, free of drama, free of fear. His love doesn't need to prove itself, doesn't need to conquer or sacrifice. It simply exists, steady and unspoken, like sunlight on a quiet morning. If Adventure Time is a world of big emotions and bigger struggles, Jake is the gentle reminder that love, at its truest, doesn't have to be complicated. It can be easy if you let it be. From the beginning, Jake's relationship with Lady Rainicorn feels different from the others around him. It isn't a story of pursuit or conquest, and it's not bound by turmoil or misunderstanding. It's a relationship built on quiet, mutual trust. They come from different species, different languages, even different cultural histories, yet their connection feels effortless. Jake never tries to make Lady Rainicorn more like him, and she never asks him to change who he is. Their bond exists in that space between difference and understanding, a love that doesn't erase uniqueness but celebrates it. This balance is at the heart of Jake's wisdom. His love isn't about ownership or need, it's about coexistence. He doesn't chase love as something to complete him, he lives it as something to share. His confidence in himself makes him capable of loving freely. There's no insecurity in his affection, no fear that love will vanish if he relaxes his grip. Because Jake doesn't hold too tightly, his relationships can breathe. For Lady Rainicorn, Jake's way of loving means she can remain fully herself, a creature of language, culture, and emotion who doesn't need to be translated to be understood. For Jake, her difference is not a challenge but a joy. The language barrier between them becomes symbolic of a deeper truth. Love doesn't need full comprehension to thrive. It only needs patience, presence, and respect. Their relationship isn't built on grand gestures or declarations. It's built on constancy. They show up for each other, day after day, no matter what. What makes Jake's love remarkable is that it's never tied to expectation. He doesn't love because he hopes for something in return. He doesn't measure affection in sacrifices or favors. For Jake, love is simply the natural way to move through life. Just as he trusts the flow of the universe, he trusts the flow of his heart. His love is unconditional because it's grounded in acceptance of Lady Rainicorn's moods, her choices, their differences, and even the passage of time. When they start a family, Jake's ease carries into his role as a partner and father. Their children, half dog, half Rainicorn, are living symbols of unity across difference. Jake approaches parenthood the same way he approaches everything else, with humor, patience, and calm. He doesn't try to control his children's futures or force them into a specific mold. He trusts them to become who they need to be. That trust creates an atmosphere of freedom and love. Jake's version of parenting isn't about guidance through authority, but through example. His children learn peace by watching him live it. His relationship with Lady Rainicorn also demonstrates one of the most profound ideas in Adventure Time, that love doesn't have to be perfect to be eternal. Their romance has disagreements, small frustrations, moments of distance, but those never define them. They always return to balance. Jake's humor diffuses tension before it becomes resentment, and Rainicorn's steadiness keeps their bond anchored. Together, they embody the show's deepest form of love, not fiery or tragic, but enduring and real. In contrast, many other romances in Oo are marked by struggle. Finn's early relationships are filled with longing and uncertainty. Princess Bubblegum's are often weighed down by duty or secrecy. Even Marceline's bonds, beautiful as they are, carry the weight of history and hurt. Jake's love, though, remains unburdened. It doesn't ask to be grand, and that's precisely why it's profound. Through Jake, Adventure Time reminds us that love's truest strength isn't in its intensity, but in its gentleness. Part of what makes Jake's love effortless is his self-understanding. He isn't looking for love to define him or heal him. He already knows who he is, and that stability allows him to love without fear of loss. He doesn't depend on Rainicorn to make him whole. He shares his wholeness with her. This difference between needing and choosing is what sets his love apart. Many characters in Oo love to fill a void. Jake loves to overflow. His affection also extends beyond romance. Jake's love radiates through his friendships, his mentorship of Finn, his bond with BMO, even his casual encounters with strangers. He has a universal kind of warmth, one that doesn't discriminate. He treats every being, from cosmic entities to minor monsters, with the same baseline respect. Even when he jokes or teases, there's never malice. His humor builds bridges, not walls. In that sense, Jake's love isn't just emotional, it's ethical. It's how he moves through the world. Jake's effortless love is also a subtle kind of bravery. To love without control, to care without fear, that takes strength. The world of Adventure Time often shows how love can wound, consume, or destroy. But Jake demonstrates a gentler truth, that love can liberate if you let it flow naturally. His trust in the goodness of others, his willingness to be open, his comfort with change, all of it adds up to a love that endures precisely because it isn't forced. When we look deeper, Jake's philosophy of love connects to his understanding of impermanence. He knows that relationships evolve. People change. Feelings shift. To him, that's not tragic. It's beautiful. Every stage of love from the first spark to the quiet familiarity of lifelong partnership, holds meaning. Jake doesn't cling to the past or mourn the loss of intensity. He celebrates what each moment gives. Love, for him, isn't a possession, it's a rhythm. This acceptance also prepares him for loss. Jake knows that nothing in life, not even love, lasts forever in its original form. But rather than fearing that truth, he honours it. His love for Lady Rainicorn and his children isn't measured in permanence, but in presence. He's fully there, not worrying about how long it will last, but savouring that it's happening at all. That's the heart of Jake's wisdom. When you stop fearing the end, you can finally enjoy the middle. Jake's effortless love stands as a counterpoint to the cosmic drama of Adventure Time. In a universe that constantly tests the limits of meaning, where gods interfere, magic decays, and dimensions collapse, Jake's quiet domestic joy becomes revolutionary. It proves that peace and love are not small or naive. They're the truest resistance to chaos. While the rest of Ua wrestles with destiny, Jake builds a life rooted in kindness. Even his humour becomes an act of love. Every time he makes someone laugh, he lightens their burden. He teaches that joy itself can be a form of compassion. In this way, his love radiates outward, transforming those around him. Finn learns to approach relationships with patience. BMO learns that family can be found in laughter. Even the viewers, through Jake, feel the healing power of acceptance. When Jake and Lady Rainicorn stand side by side, a dog and a rainbow, their love reflects the core of the show's philosophy. Harmony through difference. Their union bridges worlds that once warred, turning conflict into connection. In them, we see what Oo itself becomes by the end of the series. A place where love outlasts fear, where coexistence triumphs over separation. The beauty of Jake's love is that it asks for nothing but attention. He doesn't chase intensity or perfection. He knows that love's greatest gift is presence. To truly see someone and stay with them, no matter how strange or different they are. That's why Jake's love feels eternal. It isn't built on conditions. It's built on awareness. In the quietest moments of Adventure Time, when Jake plays the viola, naps under a tree, or shares a meal with his family, the show reveals what his love really teaches us. It's not about passion or sacrifice. It's about ease. The kind of love that doesn't demand, that doesn't hurt, that doesn't fade when tested. It's love as a natural state of being. Jake loves effortlessly because he lives effortlessly. And in doing so, he shows that love isn't something to achieve. It's something to remember. When you stop trying to control love, it returns to its original form. Simple, soft, and infinite. That is Jake's great lesson in love. That peace and connection aren't things to earn. They're what remain when you finally stop struggling. There's a reason laughter follows Jake wherever he goes. It's not just because he's funny, it's because he understands something that most beings in Oo never quite learn. That humour is a form of wisdom. For Jake, jokes aren't about avoiding reality. They're about surviving it. His humour isn't escapism. It's enlightenment in disguise. It's how he holds the contradictions of existence without letting them tear him apart. In a world where the absurd is constant, where candy people melt, universes collapse, and cosmic beings rewrite time, humour becomes a kind of grace. Most of Oo's inhabitants respond to chaos with fear or control, trying to restore order or meaning. Jake laughs, not because he's mocking it, but because he sees through it. He recognizes that the universe doesn't need to make perfect sense to be beautiful. His laughter isn't careless, it's compassionate. It acknowledges the madness and embraces it anyway. Jake's jokes, his easy tone, and his relaxed outlook all serve a deeper purpose. They're tools of connection. Humour breaks tension, bridges difference, and dissolves fear. When Finn spirals into guilt or panic, Jake makes a joke, not to belittle him, but to bring him back to the present. A simple laugh can puncture the illusion of hopelessness. To Jake, laughter is the shortest path from fear to understanding. He knows that to laugh at something isn't to reject it, but to see it clearly and still choose joy. This is what gives Jake's humour its quiet brilliance. It's not cruel or defensive, it's accepting. His jokes often come from affection, the kind that says, "It's all okay, even this," and somehow it always is. Jake's humour is also a way of practicing non-attachment. He refuses to let the heaviness of life sink in too deeply. When something goes wrong, he doesn't dwell. He cracks a joke, lightens the air, and moves on. This isn't shallowness, it's skill. He knows that overthinking doesn't solve pain, and that laughter has the power to transform it. It's his way of keeping energy flowing, of ensuring that sadness never becomes stagnation. The world around him constantly tests this. Finn often faces moral dilemmas or heartbreaks that would weigh anyone down. Princess Bubblegum struggles with duty and isolation. BMO wrestles with purpose. Jake's humour floats through all of it, like a soft melody, never overpowering, but always grounding. His laughter says what words can't. That life, no matter how strange or sad, is still worth smiling about. And Jake's humour isn't just about lightness, it's insight disguised as play. Many times, his casual one-liners reveal a clarity that others miss. While PB or Finn might analyse a situation endlessly, Jake sums it up in a few absurd words that somehow capture the essence of the truth. He doesn't need analysis because he's tuned into intuition. He feels what's right before he thinks about it. His humour emerges from that deep instinct, the kind of understanding that bypasses intellect entirely. There's a particular wisdom in not taking yourself too seriously in Ooh, where beings wrestle with cosmic significance. Jake's self-deprecating humour becomes a kind of humility. He never pretends to be the smartest, the strongest, or the most important. He laughs at himself freely, and by doing so, he dismantles the ego that traps so many others. To Jake, the self isn't something to protect, it's something to play with. His shape-shifting mirrors this. He literally stretches into caricatures of himself, turning identity into a joke, and in that act, he finds freedom. Humour, for Jake, is also a language of love. His teasing of Finn, his banter with Lady Rainicorn, even his quips during battles, they all stem from care. When he jokes, he's not hiding emotion, he's expressing it. He uses humour to bring others closer, to remind them that no matter how serious things get, they're not alone. His laughter is his way of saying, "We're in this together." This kind of humour is ancient in its wisdom. Across cultures and mythologies, the trickster archetype often serves as a guide, someone who uses laughter to reveal truth. Jake, in his own laid-back way, is Ooh's trickster sage. His silliness hides depth. His laziness hides compassion. He embodies the paradox of the fool who is actually the wisest one in the room. The laughter he brings is not mere noise, it's revelation. Jake's use of humour as a survival mechanism is also tied to his spiritual calm. He understands that suffering can't always be fixed, but it can be softened. When he tells a joke in a dark moment, it's not to dismiss the pain, it's to give it air, to let it breathe, so it doesn't consume the room. This balance between acknowledgement and levity is one of Jake's most subtle strengths. He never denies reality, but he refuses to give it total power. This doesn't mean Jake never feels sorrow. He does. But he refuses to let sorrow define him. His laughter becomes a ritual of release, a way to return to the present after feeling the weight of the world. When he laughs, it's a reminder that existence itself is absurd and miraculous all at once. That paradox, rather than frightening him, fills him with wonder. In moments of cosmic revelation, his encounters with Prismo, with reincarnation, with the cycles of life and death, Jake's humour remains intact. Even when facing mysteries that others would call divine, he reacts with calm amusement. To him, enlightenment isn't solemn, it's funny. The idea that everything is connected, that nothing lasts, that life keeps looping and changing, that's not tragedy. That's the universe having a laugh at itself. Jake doesn't resist that laughter. He joins in. There's a profound humility in that. Most beings seek control, power, or meaning. Jake seeks joy. He doesn't need to conquer mystery to appreciate it. His humour allows him to exist inside uncertainty without losing peace. It's the laughter of someone who's seen behind the curtain and found not despair, but play. Jake's humour also shapes the tone of the entire series. His presence turns Adventure Time from a tragedy into something hopeful. He gives the audience permission to feel light, even amid sadness. He embodies the emotional truth that laughter and grief are not opposites, they're intertwined. His ability to find humour in sorrow and meaning in nonsense keeps the show grounded in compassion. It's also why Finn and others can endure so much loss. Jake models how to carry suffering lightly. He shows that laughter doesn't erase pain, it transforms it into something human, something manageable. His jokes are small acts of healing. Every time he makes Finn smile after heartbreak, every time he eases PB's tension with silliness, every time he lightens the room after despair, that's Jake practicing spiritual medicine. In the end, Jake's humour teaches the same lesson as his entire life. That wisdom isn't about knowing more, it's about holding less. His laughter strips away fear, pride, and pretense until only acceptance remains. Humour, for him, is not decoration, it's enlightenment wrapped in warmth. He teaches that to be wise is to remember the joke at the heart of existence, that we are all stretching, changing, playing, and returning to ourselves again and again. Life is ridiculous, but that doesn't make it meaningless. It makes it miraculous. Jake laughs because he understands the cosmic punchline, that love, loss, and laughter all spring from the same source. And if you can smile at the chaos, you've already made peace with it. So when Jake chuckles in the face of disaster, when he cracks a joke at the end of the world, he isn't ignoring the truth, he's embodying it. His laughter is the sound of wisdom that has made peace with being alive. That is the humour of wisdom, to see the whole strange picture and still find it beautiful enough to laugh at. Jake's body is one of the strangest and most fascinating things in Adventure Time. It's elastic, mutable, impossible to categorize. He can stretch into anything, a bridge, a chair, a key, a monster, even entire landscapes. At first, his shape-shifting feels like a simple cartoon power, a bit of physical comedy. But over time, it becomes clear that Jake's body isn't just a gag, it's a reflection of his spirit. His physical form expresses his entire philosophy, adaptability, freedom, and acceptance. Jake's body is a metaphor for how to live in a constantly changing world. In Ooh, every character's body says something about who they are. Princess Bubblegum is made of candy, brilliant and sweet, but also fragile, always in danger of melting under pressure. Finn's body changes as he matures, reflecting the awkward, painful process of growth. Marceline's vampirism shows her struggle with time and memory. But Jake's body transcends limits entirely. He can expand, shrink, or twist into any shape. He's not bound by anatomy or logic. His body is possibility itself, an embodiment of openness. This physical freedom mirrors his emotional flexibility. Just as he can stretch his limbs to any shape, he stretches his mind to any situation. He doesn't resist change, he becomes it. When life demands transformation, Jake doesn't complain or hesitate, he flows. His ability to take on any form is more than a superpower. It's a statement of being, that the self is not something rigid, but something alive, elastic, and ever-changing. In this way, Jake's body represents the principle of impermanence that defines the spiritual core of Adventure Time. Nothing in Ooh stays the same for long. Not kingdoms, not friendships, not even time itself. But where others resist this, Jake embraces it completely. His very existence proves that change doesn't have to mean loss. He can become anything, yet always return to himself. His stretching, bending, and reshaping are acts of faith, expressions of trust, that no matter how life shifts, he will still be Jake. That's the subtle wisdom of his form. Identity, for Jake, is not a single fixed point. It's a rhythm, a dance between form and formlessness. Most beings in Ooh cling to definitions. Princess Bubblegum defines herself by her kingdom. Finn defines himself by heroism. But Jake refuses definition. He doesn't need one. His body and soul are too fluid for labels. This is what makes him both mysterious and peaceful. He lives beyond the anxiety of having to be something specific. The humor of his powers hides their profundity. When he turns himself into a car or a ladder or a giant fist, it's easy to laugh and move on. But those transformations echo his emotional intelligence. Jake is a being who meets the world's chaos by transforming with it instead of resisting it. His powers are not about dominance, but cooperation. He becomes what others need. He stretches to help, supports to protect, and sometimes even retreats to rest. His body mirrors the generosity of his spirit, a body that is always in service of connection. This also explains Jake's serenity in the face of danger. Most characters in Ooh fear harm because their bodies can be broken. Jake, on the other hand, knows his body can bend, absorb, and reform. His resilience gives him peace. He doesn't fear collapse because he knows collapse is just another form of movement. His shape-shifting is not invulnerability, it's adaptability. And that adaptability is what lets him live without fear. Jake's body is also a symbol of balance between chaos and control. He can change endlessly, but he never loses coherence. That's an important distinction. His transformations are guided by intuition, not panic. He doesn't stretch randomly, he stretches purposefully. This balance between freedom and awareness defines his entire existence. Jake doesn't suppress his impulses, but he doesn't let them rule him either. He trusts the body, trusts instinct, because it's wiser than thought. There's something almost sacred in how Jake's body challenges ideas of form and identity. In myth and mysticism, beings who can shift shapes are often symbols of transcendence, reminders that reality is fluid, not static. Jake, though comic in tone, occupies that same archetype. He's the shapeshifter who teaches transformation without fear. He doesn't just adapt to survive, he adapts to play. His transformations are creative acts, little affirmations that life is funnier and freer than we think. his body also connects him to nature. Unlike mechanical beings or those made of constructed matter, Jake's flexibility feels organic. His movements echo the natural world, water flowing, wind bending, roots twisting. He's attuned to the rhythm of things, moving with the same quiet harmony that defines rivers and clouds. In a land often distorted by magic and mutation, Jake's ever-changing body feels more natural than anything static. He's nature personified, not in its stillness, but in its motion. It's also telling that Jake's body can be both immense and tiny. He can tower over cities or curl up small enough to fit in Finn's pocket. This mirrors his emotional range, his ability to fill space when needed or to retreat when quiet is required. His transformations often match the emotional tone of the moment. When joy expands him, he grows huge and animated. When reflection settles in, he contracts, becoming soft and small. His form is a mirror of feeling, unashamed and unfiltered. But Jake's body isn't just a metaphor for life's freedom. It's also a reminder of life's boundaries. His powers, though vast, are not infinite. Over the series, he learns that even elasticity has limits, that too much stretching can leave him tired, even vulnerable. This truth grounds him. It's a reminder that flexibility isn't the same as invincibility. To live freely still requires rest, still requires knowing when to stop bending. In that balance between motion and stillness lies his true wisdom. Jake's physicality also influences how others around him understand themselves. Finn, for instance, learns from Jake's shape-shifting that identity can evolve. Early in their adventures, Finn tries to define himself through action, to prove he's a hero. Watching Jake, Finn learns that he doesn't need to fight who he's becoming. Growth doesn't erase who you are, it expands it. Jake's ever-changing body gives Finn permission to change too, to outgrow versions of himself without fear. Even Princess Bubblegum, who often clings to structure and control, finds in Jake a counterpoint. His shapelessness challenges her perfectionism. She, who builds everything to last, sees in Jake a kind of peace that comes from impermanence. His body laughs at the rigidity of order, and though PB might never live like Jake, his presence reminds her, and everyone in Oo, that stability isn't the same as peace. Jake's body also embodies the show's central tension between the mundane and the cosmic. His transformations are both silly and profound. They're visual comedy, but also cosmic symbolism. A being who can be anything represents the universe itself, limitless, playful, always becoming. Jake's elasticity mirrors the creative energy that drives Oo. He's not just part of the world, he's a microcosm of it, an infinite, shifting reality contained in a single being who just wants to make breakfast and hang out with his brother. In a deeper sense, Jake's body reveals the unity of physical and spiritual life. Most philosophies separate the two, the body as a vessel, the spirit as something higher. Jake's existence dissolves that boundary. For him, the body is spirit. His physical changes are spiritual acts. When he stretches, he's not escaping the material world, he's expressing it. His body becomes a reminder that spirituality isn't about leaving the physical behind. It's about inhabiting it fully, joyfully, playfully. That's why Jake's transformations always feel peaceful, even when they're absurd. He's not at war with his form. There's no shame, no conflict, no duality. In a show filled with characters who struggle to reconcile who they are with who they think they should be, Jake stands as the example of complete self-acceptance. His body doesn't obey rules because he doesn't need them. He's already at home in his own skin, whatever shape it takes. This is what makes Jake's form so spiritually resonant. It's not just that he can change, but that he never loses himself while doing so. He embodies the paradox at the heart of wisdom. To be fully yourself, you must be willing to let yourself change. His stretchiness, in this way, is a lesson in love, humility, and trust. Love, because he uses it to serve others. Humility, because he never uses it for pride. Trust, because he surrenders to what life brings. Jake's body, then, isn't just a feature of his identity. It's his philosophy made flesh. It tells the story of a being who refuses to harden, who chooses flow over force, who proves that flexibility is strength. He doesn't need armor to survive. He just needs openness. His body is the visual poetry of his soul, elastic, kind, unafraid. By the end of Adventure Time, when the world has shifted and reshaped countless times, Jake's body remains the perfect symbol of endurance through adaptation. He doesn't stand against change. He moves with it. He doesn't fear distortion. He celebrates it. His body, like his spirit, reminds us that to live fully is to stretch, to reach across fear, across identity, across the limits we imagine for ourselves, and still return to the heart that holds it all together. Jake's body teaches that we are not meant to be rigid forms trying to resist time. We are meant to bend, to grow, to change, and still remain whole. And in that eternal stretch between what we were and what we're becoming, that's where Jake lives. Among all the roles Jake fills across Adventure Time, brother, hero, wanderer, philosopher, his quietest and perhaps most profound is that of a father. His relationship with his children reveals a side of him that is deeply human, tender, and accepting. Where many parents in Oo and beyond cling to control, projecting their fears and ambitions onto their offspring, Jake practices the rarest kind of parenthood, one built on trust. He doesn't try to shape his children into versions of himself. He simply helps them become who they already are. Jake's children, Charlie, Viola, TV, Kim Kil-wan, and Jake Jr., each inherit different aspects of their father's being. Some reflect his calmness, others his curiosity or humour, and others seem to take after their mother's colourful complexity. They grow up fast, both literally and emotionally, and instead of mourning how quickly they leave the nest, Jake smiles. He accepts it. His love doesn't rely on their presence. It relies on his faith that they'll be okay. That ease, that readiness to let go, makes him a rare figure in any story, a parent who understands that love isn't ownership. In a world like Oo, where characters constantly wrestle with control, Princess Bubblegum with her kingdom, Ice King with his loneliness, Finn with his destiny, Jake's parenting philosophy stands as a quiet act of defiance. He doesn't believe in shaping others to fit his image. He believes in giving them space to stretch, just as he does. His shape-shifting, again, mirrors his spirit. Elastic, open, capable of expanding to make room for others. That's what fatherhood means to Jake, not boundaries and instruction, but flexibility and faith. When Jake's children begin to chart their own paths, each one distant from the others, he doesn't react with sadness or confusion. He celebrates it. To him, their independence is a success, not a loss. He knows that all relationships, even those bound by blood, are temporary in their form, but eternal in their essence. You raise your children so they can walk away, not so they'll stay. His calm understanding of that truth gives his family story a serenity that few others in Oo achieve. His eldest, Kim Kil-wan, often becomes the mirror to Jake's philosophy. A hard-working, responsible, and sometimes overly serious figure, Kim Kil-wan represents what happens when Jake's relaxed worldview collides with the demands of adult life. There's a gentle tension between them, the son who plans everything and the father who drifts. But instead of trying to change Kim Kil-wan, Jake simply respects his difference. He doesn't argue or insist that his own way is better. His quiet acceptance becomes a lesson in itself, that love doesn't mean agreement. It means letting others live by their own truths. This acceptance runs through all of Jake's family relationships. With Lady Rainicorn, he's the same, loving without smothering, present without possession. Their household is one of peace, not perfection. The chaos of 5 children could have easily overwhelmed someone more anxious or controlling. Jake, however, greets every bit of that chaos with laughter. To him, life's unpredictability isn't a problem to solve. It's proof that things are alive. In contrast to many fictional fathers, those burdened by guilt, control, or regret, Jake's style is revolutionary. He teaches that letting go isn't neglect, it's trust. He trusts his children to carry forward what matters most: kindness, humor, and an openness to change. He knows they will make mistakes, just as he did, and he welcomes that. Growth, after all, only happens through freedom. There's a moment of quiet truth in Jake's fatherhood, the way he never demands to be the center of his children's stories. Many parents long to be remembered as heroes, to have their children reflect their glory. Jake doesn't. He's content to fade into the background, to let their lives unfold without his interference. That humility defines him. For Jake, love's highest form is release, to give completely and then to step back. His approach to fatherhood mirrors his philosophy toward life itself. Just as he doesn't fight the flow of the universe, he doesn't fight the flow of family. Children grow, relationships evolve, time moves. He doesn't resist the current, he trusts it. He knows that his children are not extensions of his ego, but independent souls connected by love, not obligation. In this way, his family life becomes an extension of his spirituality, a practice of letting go gracefully. Yet, Jake's detachment doesn't mean distance. When his children need him, he's there, steady, kind, unflustered. His presence is never overbearing, but always certain. He doesn't lecture, he listens. He doesn't impose, he reminds. His fatherhood operates like his humor and his wisdom, soft but transformative. The lesson is always there, quiet and invisible, like gravity. Even in his interactions with Finn, we see shades of Jake's paternal instinct. Finn, though his brother, often receives from Jake the same kind of loving patience Jake gives his own children. Jake's mentorship of Finn foreshadows his role as a father. Guidance without pressure, love without condition. Finn's maturity mirrors Jake's influence, just as Jake's children's independence mirrors his trust. In both relationships, Jake practices the same sacred balance, giving everything while holding nothing too tightly. Jake's way of letting go also reflects his deep understanding of impermanence. He knows that clinging only creates suffering. He's watched empires rise and fall, seen friendships shift, and even glimpsed cosmic cycles through his encounters with Prismo and beyond. Through all that, he's learned that love isn't about preventing change, it's about staying open to it. So when his children grow distant, he doesn't feel abandoned, he feels fulfilled. Their separation is proof that they're living as they should. This understanding gives Jake's family story a sense of peace, rare in fiction. There's no tragedy in his fatherhood, no unhealed wounds, or dramatic reconciliations. His legacy isn't forged through sacrifice or sorrow, but through trust and laughter. That may seem small, but it's actually the highest form of wisdom. Jake teaches that love doesn't have to be tested by loss to be real. It can exist in the quiet rhythms of everyday life, in breakfast conversations, gentle goodbyes, and the knowledge that everyone is exactly where they need to be. Jake's fatherhood also redefines strength. Traditional depictions of parenthood often equate love with protection. The idea that, to be a good parent, you must shield your children from harm. Jake doesn't believe in shields. He believes in roots. He gives his children the stability to face life themselves, not the illusion that he can face it for them. His strength lies not in control, but in faith. That kind of strength is quieter than heroism, but infinitely more enduring. In many ways, Jake's family reflects his view of the universe. Everything connected, everything moving, everything free. His children's diversity, in form, temperament, and path, symbolizes the many shapes love can take. None of them are bound to one definition of family or one kind of life. Yet through all their differences, they remain connected by Jake's example, an invisible thread of calm that runs through their existence. Jake's ease with letting go also carries a subtle spiritual message. His ability to love without attachment mirrors the great truths found in philosophies that celebrate impermanence. To hold something lightly is to truly see it. To love someone without trying to possess them is to understand love in its purest form. Jake, without ever preaching, lives this truth. His family is not his to keep, it's his to cherish. As he grows older, Jake's relationship with his children transforms from teacher to witness. He no longer needs to guide them. He simply enjoys watching their stories unfold. His pride isn't in what they achieve, but in how they exist. That quiet satisfaction, that deep contentment, is the hallmark of a spirit at peace. By the time his journey nears its end, Jake has already mastered the hardest lesson any parent can learn, that love means allowing others to move beyond you. His serenity in this truth elevates him above the fear and grief that often accompany letting go. He trusts that what he's given, patience, laughter, and love, will echo long after he's gone. His children don't need to carry his memory, they carry his peace. And perhaps that is Jake's greatest legacy as a father. He proves that letting go is not the opposite of love, but its final form. Love that clings is fear in disguise. Love that trusts is freedom. Jake's heart is full precisely because he doesn't close his hands around it. In a world where even immortals fear time's passing, Jake teaches that love doesn't end when people move on. It continues gently, like sunlight refracted through rain. He doesn't cling to the rainbow. He simply looks up and smiles, knowing it's still there somewhere, bending across the sky. That's Jake's fatherhood, the art of love without possession, of care without control, of joy that survives separation. He doesn't hold on, he holds space. And in that space, his family and the world learns how to grow. Jake the dog lives in many worlds at once, not just in the physical sense, but in every layer of existence that Adventure Time explores. He's a creature of ooh, a being of flesh and warmth and laughter, yet he also drifts into dimensions where time bends, where dreams become real, and where the boundary between life and death fades into light. He's a bridge between realities, a traveller who can pass from the ordinary to the infinite without ever losing his sense of self. Jake belongs everywhere because he resists belonging anywhere too tightly. This quality is not about escapism. Jake doesn't wander between worlds because he's lost. He moves between them because he's at peace with how connected they truly are. His flexibility, physical, emotional, spiritual, makes him porous to existence itself. To Jake, the cosmic and the everyday are not opposites. They are parts of one continuous fabric, stretching and contracting like his own body. Where others see borders, Jake sees flow. His friendship with Prismo reveals this most clearly. Prismo, the Wishmaster who lives in a timeless realm of dreams, is perhaps the only being who fully understands Jake's unique balance of humor and depth. Their connection blurs the boundary between dream and waking life. When Jake visits Prismo, he doesn't react with confusion or existential dread, as many others might. He's curious, amused, calm, as though stepping into another world is no stranger than stepping into another room. He accepts that reality has layers, and he moves through them like a wave crossing water, rippling but never breaking. In these moments, Adventure Time hints that Jake's ease with multiple dimensions isn't just an accident of his powers, it's the natural consequence of his philosophy. He spent his entire life practicing detachment, adaptability, and openness. So when the universe offers him new forms of existence, dream, spirit, or memory, he doesn't resist. He's already ready. He's been ready his whole life, simply by learning to let things be. Jake's relationship with Prismo is also one of the purest expressions of friendship in the series. It's not built on need or obligation, but on shared understanding. Both of them embody serenity in different ways. Prismo through his infinite perspective, Jake through his lived acceptance. When they're together, the boundary between mortal and eternal fades. Jake doesn't approach Prismo as a god to worship, but as a friend to hang out with. That simplicity, eating snacks, talking about life, lounging in timeless space, transforms the cosmic into the familiar. It's a reminder that the divine doesn't have to be distant. Sometimes, enlightenment looks like a nap on a couch next to someone who just gets you. Through his bond with Prismo, Jake glimpses truths that most mortals could never bear. He sees how existence repeats and renews, how death and life intertwine. He learns that the self is not a fixed point, but a wave, something that rises, falls, and rises again. Yet none of this shakes him. He doesn't need to interpret it or build a philosophy around it. His calm reaction to cosmic revelation is the essence of wisdom, to see the infinite and still feel at home in the finite. Jake's ability to exist between worlds also manifests in smaller, quieter ways. He's just as comfortable in Princess Bubblegum's high-tech candy kingdom as he is in the wilderness, or in the company of strange creatures, or drifting through mystical dimensions. Wherever he is, he blends in. He doesn't need to adapt, he simply is adaptable. His presence harmonizes with his surroundings. This makes him a bridge between communities, between beings who might otherwise never connect. Whether he's with rainicorns, humans, vampires, or deities, Jake brings the same warmth, the same steady energy. His very existence creates common ground. This is part of why Jake's presence is so healing in the world of Ooh. He occupies the spaces between extremes, between logic and chaos, body and spirit, play and seriousness. When others get lost in their identities, Jake reminds them that they're not confined by them. His flexibility isn't just physical or metaphysical, it's moral. He can understand both sides of a conflict because he never clings to one truth so tightly that it blinds him to another. He listens, laughs, and finds a way to weave opposites together. Jake's life between worlds also reveals how deeply he understands impermanence. He knows that boundaries are illusions, that every form eventually dissolves into another. His ability to cross realms isn't a power. It's a metaphor for his understanding that everything is already connected. Life and death, dream and waking, self and other, they're all expressions of the same flow. Jake doesn't separate them in his mind, which is why he can navigate them so effortlessly. This connection to the beyond is what gives Jake's wisdom its calm weight. When others fear the unknown, Jake smiles. He's already been there. He's touched the edge of forever and found it familiar. His trips to Prismo's realm, his encounters with cosmic entities, even his peaceful acceptance of mortality, they all reinforce his view that reality is one unbroken thing, stretching infinitely, looping like a song. Jake doesn't need to solve it. He dances to it. What makes Jake's ability to live between worlds even more profound is that he doesn't treat it as special. He never acts like a mystic or a prophet. He never claims knowledge others don't have. To him, enlightenment isn't an achievement, it's just awareness. He doesn't want followers or recognition. His humility allows his wisdom to remain pure. He moves between realities without losing his grounding in ordinary joy, food, family, naps, jokes. In that balance, Jake becomes a living bridge between cosmic truth and everyday life. His physical transformations reflect this dual existence. When he stretches, he connects places, people, and ideas. He literally bridges worlds with his body, and figuratively does the same with his heart. Whether it's helping Finn reach something impossible, or turning himself into something absurd for a laugh, Jake's body becomes the embodiment of unity. His very nature insists that there's no real divide between the sacred and the silly, the spiritual and the physical. It's all one continuum, and Jake lives right at its center. This in-betweenness is also what makes Jake's death and afterlife so peaceful. When his time in the physical world ends, he doesn't resist. He crosses over as easily as he once stretched across rooms or dimensions. The line between living and dying has no power over him because he's already seen through it. Jake's existence between worlds has prepared him for that ultimate transition. For him, the afterlife isn't an end. It's just another space to explore, another friend's house to visit. Finn, of course, struggles to accept this. For someone rooted in action and emotion, Jake's serenity can seem like distance. But when Finn finally understands, he realizes that Jake's ease with death isn't detachment. It's love in its purest form. Jake trusts the universe completely. He trusts that reunion and separation are the same thing viewed from different sides of time. When Finn and Jake meet again, it's not as brothers torn apart and rejoined. It's as beings who never truly left each other at all. That's the final gift of Jake's existence between worlds. He redefines what connection means. It's not about proximity or possession. It's about presence, the kind that transcends time, distance, and even death. Jake doesn't cling to the living or the dead because he understands that love is the bridge itself. As long as there's love, the worlds remain connected. Through Jake, Adventure Time gives us a philosophy both cosmic and tender. He teaches that enlightenment doesn't require separation from the world, it requires embracing all of it. The physical, the emotional, the divine, the mundane, they're not hierarchies, just layers of the same great mystery. Jake walks, or stretches, across those layers with ease, reminding everyone he meets that peace doesn't come from choosing a world. It comes from belonging to all of them at once. In the end, Jake's life between worlds shows that existence is not a ladder, but a circle. Every dream touches reality, every goodbye touches reunion, and every death touches life again. Jake stands at the center of that circle, smiling, content, watching the universe breathe in and out, knowing that no matter how far apart the worlds may seem, they're all connected by the same endless stretch of love. Jake the dog is perhaps the only character in Adventure Time who truly understands the art of doing nothing. In a world where everyone is chasing purpose, fighting chaos, or trying to fix something broken, Jake rests. He naps in the middle of quests, lounges while the world spins, and cooks breakfast while others wrestle with destiny. To most, that might look like laziness, a refusal to engage. But for Jake, doing nothing is not an escape, it's a form of wisdom. He sees that stillness is not the absence of life, it's the heart of it. The art of doing nothing is something Jake practices with reverence. It's not a rejection of adventure, but a recognition that constant striving creates its own kind of suffering. Ooh is full of motion. Kingdoms rise and fall, magic mutates, time collapses. In the midst of all that noise, Jake's calm becomes sacred. He doesn't resist motion. He simply refuses to let it define him. When the world rushes to solve, to conquer, to build, Jake takes a deep breath and sits down. And somehow, by sitting still, he sees everything more clearly than those who run. To Jake, stillness isn't idleness. It's participation at a deeper level. It's a conversation with the universe that doesn't require words. When he relaxes, he's listening to the rhythm of things, to the quiet hum beneath the chaos. He knows that everything has its own timing, and that forcing life only tangles it further. His ability to pause, to wait, to simply be, is his greatest strength. It's why he rarely makes mistakes born of panic. He moves when it's time and rests when it's not. Jake's way of being stands in contrast to the rest of Oo's restless cast. Princess Bubblegum must always be doing something, inventing, building, planning. Finn feels incomplete unless he's on a quest. Even BMO, in its innocent curiosity, is constantly searching for purpose. Jake, however, lives as though purpose is already fulfilled. He doesn't need to seek it. To him, just existing, breathing, eating, laughing is enough. This is why his peace feels so foreign to others. He's not striving for meaning, he's living it. This calm becomes a quiet mirror for Finn's youthful intensity. When Finn was younger, Jake's doing nothing seemed like avoidance. Finn wanted to fight monsters and make things happen. Jake just wanted to chill. But as Finn grows older, he begins to see what Jake was really teaching him. That rest is part of courage. That silence is part of wisdom. Not every problem needs a sword. Not every feeling needs fixing. Some things need time, patience, and the grace of doing nothing at all. Jake's mastery of rest isn't laziness, it's balance. He knows that stillness and motion are not enemies, but partners. He can spring into action when danger comes, but he also knows when to stop. His ability to shift between doing and being gives him a kind of harmony that no one else in Oo possesses. He embodies what philosophers might call the middle path, the art of living without extremes. The idea that doing nothing could be powerful runs counter to nearly every story of heroism. But Adventure Time has always been a show about questioning what heroism really means. Jake's form of heroism is subtle, almost invisible. It's not about saving kingdoms, but about saving sanity. His stillness becomes a refuge for everyone around him. When Finn burns with anxiety or guilt, Jake's presence steadies him. When others spiral into conflict, Jake's calm dissolves it. His rest becomes contagious, a reminder that the world doesn't fall apart if you take a breath. There's also humility in Jake's stillness. He doesn't believe he's the center of every story. He doesn't feel the need to insert himself into every conflict. His ability to do nothing comes from understanding that not every problem is his to solve. He knows the difference between care and control. By stepping back, he creates space for others to learn, to grow, and to act. His restraint, more than his action, often becomes the reason things resolve peacefully. Doing nothing, for Jake, is also a spiritual practice. When he lies down under a tree, eyes half closed, it's as if he's meditating. His body may look lazy, but his mind is quietly aligned with the rhythm of existence. He understands the art of non-resistance, the truth that sometimes the most meaningful thing you can do is to stop struggling. His naps aren't just physical rest, they're metaphors for surrender. In those moments, he isn't escaping the world, he's merging with it. His ability to rest without guilt also reflects his deep trust in life. Many beings in U fear what will happen if they stop moving. They're haunted by the idea that stillness means stagnation or decay. Jake knows better. He's seen that life doesn't need to be pushed, it unfolds naturally. To him, rest is faith. Faith that things can grow without his constant interference. That trust is why he never rushes, never panics, never forces. His serenity is his power. This philosophy is most evident in how Jake handles crisis. While others scramble for solutions, Jake often steps aside, watches, and waits. He knows that time itself can heal what logic cannot. When he does act, his timing is impeccable. Never too early, never too late. His interventions feel effortless because they come from stillness, not from urgency. He acts not to prove something, but because the moment calls for it. In that way, his doing nothing prepares him to do everything. There's something almost sacred about the way Jake naps. It's not laziness, it's communion. In those moments, he's fully part of the world, not resisting, not directing, just existing. His rest carries the quiet understanding that everything is temporary, that energy moves in cycles, and that life's greatest wisdom is not in control, but in rhythm. Jake's naps are the universe breathing through him. He also teaches others, quietly, how to rest. Finn learns it slowly, over years of exhaustion and loss. Princess Bubblegum, though she may never admit it, absorbs some of that ease by simply being around him. Even beings as chaotic as the Ice King are calmed by Jake's unshakable presence. His peace radiates outward, reminding everyone that there's a center to every storm, and that center is still. Doing nothing, in Jake's world, isn't about withdrawal, it's about attention. He knows that when you stop forcing things, you start seeing them as they are. In stillness, life reveals its beauty. The sky, the sound of leaves, the laughter of friends, these simple things become profound when you finally stop trying to make them more than they already are. Jake lives in that awareness, constantly. It's no coincidence that Jake is a musician, that he plays instruments, hums tunes, and finds rhythm in everything. Music, like his philosophy, depends on silence. The pauses between notes give the song its shape. Jake's life works the same way. His rest gives meaning to his motion. His silence gives weight to his laughter. His stillness gives power to his action. He knows that being still doesn't mean being empty. It means being full enough to overflow gently. As Jake grows older, the art of doing nothing becomes his final lesson. His later life is marked not by great battles or grand quests, but by presence. He doesn't fade away with regret or anxiety. He eases into rest the same way he eased into everything, with humor, warmth, and faith. For him, the end of one journey is simply another nap, before the next begins. His peace with rest becomes his peace with death. Through Jake, Adventure Time teaches that the world doesn't need constant fixing to be beautiful. Sometimes it just needs to be noticed. Jake's stillness is a rebellion against the culture of endless striving, against the idea that value comes only from doing. He reminds us that being is enough. In the end, Jake's art of doing nothing reveals the deepest kind of strength, the ability to sit with life, to let it unfold, to watch it pass without grasping. His quiet existence tells us that peace isn't found at the end of effort, it's found when effort ends. And maybe that's the truest adventure of all, to learn, like Jake, how to stop moving long enough to finally arrive where you already are. For all his laughter, lightness, and ease, Jake's greatest wisdom comes from the one truth he never denies, that everything ends. He lives with mortality, not as a shadow over him, but as a companion beside him, a quiet teacher he never tries to outrun. Where many in Oo chase immortality or resist the passage of time, Jake walks hand in hand with it. Death, to him, is not a thief, but a storyteller, reminding him that every moment shines brighter because it will pass. Jake's comfort with mortality is not something he gains suddenly. It's the natural extension of everything he is. From the start, he's accepted impermanence in the smallest things, a joke that fades after laughter, a day that ends with the sunset, a meal that disappears as it's enjoyed. He understands that endings are not opposites of beginnings. They're partners in the same dance. To live fully, he believes, is to make peace with loss. That belief sets him apart from almost everyone else in Oo. Princess Bubblegum's pursuit of progress comes from a need to preserve, to control decay. Marceline's long life weighs her down with memories that refuse to fade. Even Finn, for much of his youth, treats death as something to fight. Jake alone sits calmly in the middle, unafraid. His calmness doesn't mean ignorance of death's pain. It means acceptance of its necessity. He knows that everything that lives must change, and change is just another word for dying a little and becoming something new. This is why Jake never wastes energy on fear. The same way he stretches his body to fit any space, he stretches his soul to fit any moment, including the moment of his own end. His philosophy of chill, his humour, his love, his trust in flow, all of it prepares him for mortality. He's been practicing death his whole life by learning how to let go. Every nap, every sigh, every moment of stillness is a rehearsal for that final surrender. Jake's understanding of mortality is not solemn, it's joyful. He treats existence like a song. You don't weep because the song ends, you smile because you heard it. When his time eventually comes, Jake faces it with the same gentle curiosity he brought to everything. He doesn't run, doesn't rage, doesn't cling. He listens. He knows that death is just another kind of rhythm, another measure in the melody of being. His approach to mortality also reflects his deep trust in continuity. Through his bond with Prismo and his glimpses beyond life, Jake knows that existence doesn't vanish, it transforms. When he learns of reincarnation, he doesn't react with awe or disbelief. He nods, as if the universe has simply confirmed what he always suspected, that life is too fluid to truly end, that awareness dissolves the fear that grips so many others. For Jake, mortality is not a wall but a door, and he's not afraid to open it when the time comes. Jake's peace with death also becomes one of his most powerful teachings to Finn. Finn, for much of his life, fears loss, of friends, of love, of meaning. Jake never tries to talk him out of that fear directly, Instead, he lives the lesson. When something ends, Jake grieves gently, then moves forward. His grief never calcifies into despair. He mourns, but he doesn't worship sorrow. In doing so, he teaches Finn the hardest truth of adulthood, that love and loss are inseparable, and that the only way to survive that truth is through acceptance. Jake's eventual death is not treated by the universe as tragedy. It's portrayed with the same lightness he always carried. There's sadness, yes, but it's wrapped in peace, the natural kind that comes when someone leaves, having lived exactly as they meant to. Jake doesn't die with regret. He dies having already understood that dying is just another way of changing shape. His calmness is so deep that even death seems to relax around him. In his passing, we see the culmination of all his teachings. The chill, the humour, the patience, the balance, they all converge in his final act of acceptance. Jake's death is gentle because his life was gentle. He doesn't fight the end because he never fought the flow of existence. His final breath isn't resistance, it's surrender, the same surrender he practiced every time he let go of a worry or forgave a mistake. When Finn eventually finds him again, in the realm beyond life, Jake's peace is complete. He greets his brother not as a ghost or a lost soul, but as himself, whole, calm, and full of love. Death hasn't changed him. It's simply revealed what was always true. Jake was never bound to one world, one form, or one moment. His peace transcends the border between life and afterlife. He is still Jake, still laughing, still radiant, still free. That reunion, Finn and Jake together again, transforms the concept of mortality itself. For Finn, it's proof that love outlasts life. For Jake, it's just the natural continuation of everything he's always known. The two of them float through the afterlife together, not as lost souls, but as old friends finally resting after a long day. It's a moment that feels both cosmic and ordinary, sacred and simple, exactly how Jake would want it. What Jake teaches through his death isn't how to avoid it, but how to live in such a way that when it comes, you're ready. His acceptance doesn't erase fear, it transforms it into peace. He shows that dying well isn't about knowing when it happens, but about how you've lived before it. Every act of kindness, every laugh shared, every nap under the sun, these are the things that prepare him. Jake doesn't need to be immortal, because he's already infinite in spirit. Jake's mortality also redefines what it means to be strong. Many characters in U equate strength with survival, with defiance. Jake teaches that strength is the ability to surrender without despair. To die with joy is to understand that life has never truly belonged to you. It flows through you for a while, and then it moves on. To grasp that truth and still smile, that is courage beyond heroism. In the context of Adventure Time's greater mythology, Jake's death completes a spiritual arc that mirrors the fate of U itself. The world, born from destruction, learns to find peace in impermanence. Just as U rises from the ruins of apocalypse, Jake's spirit rises from the inevitability of death. Both represent the same cycle, decay giving way to creation, ending leading into continuation. Jake's personal journey becomes the story of the world, a reminder that the end is never the end, only another transformation. His serenity also challenges our human fear of meaninglessness. Jake proves that mortality doesn't make life pointless, it gives it shape. The temporary nature of things makes them precious. His laughter, his family, his adventures with Finn, all matter because they happen only once. Each moment, fleeting as it is, holds infinite depth precisely because it will never come again. Jake understands that eternity doesn't exist in endless time. It exists in presence. By the time his story concludes, Jake has nothing left to chase, nothing left to fear. He's lived fully, loved deeply, and let go gracefully. His peace with mortality feels inevitable, the natural outcome of a life lived in balance with itself. When he finally crosses that last threshold, it's less a departure and more a homecoming. And when we, as viewers, feel the ache of his loss, we realize that Jake's lesson has reached us too. He's teaching us, even in absence, that death is not a void, but a continuation, a shift in the pattern, a new verse in the song. His story invites us to live with the same openness, to let go of our grip on permanence, to breathe with the rhythm of change. Jake's final gift is his example. He shows that you don't need to conquer death to transcend it. You only need to love the world so completely that when it ends, you can smile and say, "That was good." And then, like Jake, you stretch into the next mystery, relaxed, content, and full of peace. Jake the dog has always lived with one foot in reality and the other in a dream. His life blurs the boundaries between imagination and existence, between what is and what could be. He's a creature of the moment, grounded in warmth, laughter, and food, yet his mind drifts constantly toward the abstract, the absurd, the eternal. If Finn is the adventurer who explores the outer world, Jake is the dreamer who explores the inner one. Every joke he makes, every nap he takes, every surreal encounter he treats with calm ease reveals a spirit that moves freely between waking and dreaming, as if both were parts of the same long, peaceful sleep. The dreamer in Jake isn't about fantasy or escape. He doesn't dream to run from life. He dreams to understand it. His imagination is not a doorway out of reality, but a window deeper into it. Oo itself often feels like one of Jake's dreams, full of impossible shapes, melting logic, and emotional truth disguised as nonsense. In that way, Jake is both a participant and a mirror of his world. His relaxed attitude toward reality reflects the series' own message, that meaning and absurdity are not opposites, they coexist in harmony, like the waking and dreaming halves of a single consciousness. Jake's connection to dreaming is also deeply literal. His friendship with Prismo, a being who exists in a dream dimension, places him directly at the border of reality and imagination. When Jake enters Prismo's realm, he's not confused by its timelessness or surreal laws. He moves through it as naturally as he moves through his living room. It's as if he recognizes something of himself there, a reflection of his own way of being. Prismo dreams eternally, existing as both the dreamer and the dream. Jake, in his own life, mirrors that paradox. He lives as though he, too, is dreaming consciously, aware that all things, joy, loss, adventure, are fleeting images flickering on a greater screen of existence. There's a calm awareness to Jake's dreamlike nature. He sees how fragile the world is, how easily it can twist into something strange or dissolve into nothingness, and it doesn't frighten him. He finds beauty in that fragility. His dreamer's heart allows him to treat reality with softness. When things go wrong, he doesn't panic. He adapts, as one does in a dream. He stretches, flows, and transforms, trusting that whatever form the moment takes, it will pass. His flexibility, both physical and emotional, is the body's echo of a dreamer's truth, that nothing in life is permanent, but everything is connected. This is also why Jake's humour has such depth. His laughter isn't a denial of reality, but a recognition that it's all a bit surreal anyway. He understands the cosmic absurdity of existence, the way joy and sadness blend into each other, the way the universe seems both deeply meaningful and completely nonsensical. For most beings, this paradox causes confusion or fear. For Jake, it's a reason to laugh, not mockingly, but lovingly. His laughter is the laughter of the dreamer who has realized that the dream doesn't need fixing. It just needs to be appreciated. Jake's identity as both dreamer and dog captures one of Adventure Time's deepest philosophical tensions, the dual nature of being. The dog is the grounded, loyal, physical part, the creature who loves naps, bacon, and companionship. The dreamer is the infinite part, the consciousness that transcends body, time, and even life itself. Most characters in Oo are caught in the struggle between these two realities. Princess Bubblegum's intellect ties her to matter and order. Simon's mind splits between reason and madness. Finn's heart swings between idealism and acceptance. Jake, however, reconciles both halves effortlessly. He is fully physical and fully metaphysical, fully here and fully beyond. His relationship with Prismo makes this harmony explicit. When Prismo tells Jake that his dream self continues beyond time, Jake accepts it without awe or confusion. He doesn't need to philosophize it. He simply nods, as though it were obvious all along. That acceptance shows how naturally Jake lives within paradox. To him, the idea that a dream could be as real as a body isn't strange, it's comforting. He's known it instinctively every time he's fallen asleep and drifted into worlds that felt just as vivid as waking life. Jake understands that all reality, in the end, is dreamlike, transient, but radiant, fleeting, but full. The dreamer in Jake also explains his creativity. He doesn't plan his actions, he improvises. He doesn't rehearse conversations, he flows with them. His life is a constant act of spontaneous creation. That's why his adventures often feel like improvisational jazz, loose, playful, but perfectly in tune with the moment. He doesn't need control to find meaning. He trusts the rhythm of life to carry him. This is the same faith that allows him to be fearless in the face of chaos. The dream never stops changing, and neither does he. Jake's dreamlike perspective also shapes his empathy. Because he sees existence as fluid, he can slip into the experiences of others with ease. He never judges harshly, never acts superior. He knows that everyone's story is just another variation of the same dream, one consciousness exploring itself through countless forms. When he meets strange or broken beings in Oo, he treats them not as outsiders, but as fellow dreamers. His acceptance becomes a kind of universal compassion. The dog half of Jake, meanwhile, grounds all this transcendence. Without his earthy love of comfort and companionship, he might have drifted entirely into the realm of abstraction. But his physical instincts to eat, to rest, to play, keep him connected to the simple joy of being alive. His spirituality never becomes cold or detached because it's rooted in the body. He loves the dream, but he also loves the smell of breakfast, the warmth of the sun, the feel of grass under his paws. His enlightenment is not an escape from the physical world, it's an embrace of it. This balance between dreamer and dog is what makes Jake such a unique kind of sage. He teaches not through revelation, but through relaxation. When he lies on the grass, gazing at the clouds, he's not wasting time. He's communing with both worlds at once. The dog enjoys the sun. The dreamer feels the vastness behind it. His mind and body are in harmony, each completing the other. The dreamer in Jake also prepares him for the great transitions of life and death. When he finally crosses into the afterlife, it feels less like an ending and more like waking from one dream into another. The worlds blur together because they always have for him. The boundary between sleeping and waking, living and dying, never existed in his eyes. His ability to float through the afterlife with Finn so naturally, laughing, reminiscing, exploring, proves that Jake has always understood the cyclical, dreamlike nature of existence. To him, every moment is part of the same eternal nap, and he's just happy to share it. Jake's duality, dreamer and dog, cosmic and domestic, is the essence of his peace. He doesn't try to resolve the tension between them. He lives inside it. That's why he can be both silly and profound, lazy and wise, mortal and infinite. His being unites opposites that the rest of Oo can't reconcile. He proves that you don't have to choose between the mystical and the mundane. You can love breakfast and enlightenment at the same time. In the end, Jake's dreamlike way of being becomes a map for how to live in a world that constantly shifts between sense and nonsense. He teaches that the way to peace is not to wake up from the dream, but to dream consciously, to know it's fleeting and love it anyway. The dreamer accepts change, the dog enjoys it. Together, they form the perfect balance of body and spirit. When we look at Jake lying under the sky, half asleep, humming softly to himself, we see both halves united, the cosmic and the everyday, the infinite and the ordinary. He dreams not to escape life, but to understand it, and in doing so, he wakes up to the beauty of being alive. Jake is the dreamer who never needed to wake up to find truth, because he was never truly asleep. There's a certain kind of vision that only comes from peace. Jake doesn't see the world the way most beings do. To him, the universe isn't a battlefield of right and wrong, nor a puzzle to be solved. It's a living, breathing thing, endlessly strange and endlessly beautiful. He looks at existence with a kind of open wonder that never fades, no matter how much he's seen. The apocalypse, the magic, the loss, the love, it all blends into one endless pattern for him. Through Jake's eyes, the universe isn't something to conquer or understand, it's something to enjoy. What makes Jake's way of seeing unique is its simplicity. He doesn't filter the world through judgment or expectation. He doesn't seek meaning in every shadow or cosmic event. He finds meaning in what's right in front of him. The smell of breakfast, the laughter of friends, the sound of the wind through the trees. For Jake, the small things are not small. They're reflections of the infinite. Every ordinary moment is a reminder that existence, even at its quietest, is miraculous. This perspective sets him apart from nearly everyone else in Oo. Princess Bubblegum sees the world through responsibility, Marceline through memory, Finn through adventure, Simon through regret. Each of them carries a lens shaped by their past and their pain. Jake, though, looks through the lens of acceptance. He doesn't try to fix the world, he listens to it. He doesn't demand that it makes sense, he laughs with it when it doesn't. His vision is not the vision of a scientist or a hero, but of an artist, one who finds beauty in imperfection and rhythm in chaos. Jake's way of seeing the universe also reveals how deeply he trusts it. He believes, on some level, that everything happens as it should, not because it's planned or perfect, but because it's alive. He sees harmony where others see randomness. When things fall apart, he doesn't panic. He looks closer. He understands that destruction is just another form of transformation. This doesn't make him indifferent, it makes him wise. His calm faith in the unfolding of life allows him to move through it without fear. To see the world through Jake's eyes is to realize that peace isn't found in certainty, it's found in wonder. Jake doesn't need to know the meaning of everything. The mystery itself is enough. He can sit under the stars, staring into the unknown, and feel complete. Where others might feel small, he feels connected. The vastness of the universe doesn't intimidate him, it soothes him. He knows he's part of it, a single thread in the same endless weave. That connection is visible in the way he treats everyone he meets. Jake's openness to the universe translates directly into empathy. He looks at people, no matter how strange or broken, and sees something familiar. He doesn't divide the world into heroes and villains, good and bad. He sees every being as part of the same flow of life. That's why his kindness feels so effortless. He doesn't need to forgive others for their flaws because he never condemns them in the first place. He accepts difference as naturally as breathing. Finn, who once saw the world as a series of battles to win, learns from Jake to see it as a story to experience. Through Jake's influence, Finn's perspective matures. He learns to pause, to observe, to appreciate rather than always act. Jake's presence teaches him that heroism is not about fighting monsters, but about seeing beauty in the world, even when it's broken. Jake's eyes teach him that the greatest adventure is not out there in the unknown. It's right here, in every shared laugh and quiet moment. Jake's perspective also transforms the meaning of time. Most beings experience time as a march, something linear, always moving forward, always slipping away. Jake experiences it as a ripple. To him, moments don't vanish, they echo. He remembers his adventures, not with nostalgia, but with warmth, as if they're all still happening somewhere. His understanding of the universe is circular, not linear. Everything returns. Everything transforms. Everything continues. It's the same view that makes him so at ease with death. He knows that endings are just folds in time, not finalities. This cyclical vision gives Jake a deep sense of gratitude. Every moment, no matter how ordinary, feels like a gift. He doesn't waste energy longing for what's gone or worrying about what's to come. His joy exists entirely in the present, not because he ignores the past or future, but because he sees them all as parts of the same whole. When he eats, he really eats. When he laughs, he really laughs. His presence is so total that it becomes a kind of prayer, a celebration of being. Jake's connection to nature reveals this world view in its purest form. He doesn't see the forest as background or the sky as decoration. He feels them as extensions of himself. The same energy that makes him stretch and move exists in the trees, in the rivers, in the stars. His empathy extends to the entire cosmos. This is why he can find peace anywhere, because everywhere feels like home. To Jake, the universe is not a place he lives in. It's something he's part of. Even when facing the bizarre or the frightening, Jake's perception remains steady. He can stare at cosmic horror, at the unfathomable face of beings like Golb, and still feel centered. It's not that he underestimates danger, it's that he sees everything, even chaos, as part of the same pattern. He knows that behind every storm is the same stillness he carries inside. That's why his calm often brings balance to those around him. He sees clearly when others can't, not because he's immune to fear, but because he sees beyond it. Jake's vision of the universe is inherently compassionate because it's rooted in unity. He doesn't place himself above or apart from the world. He's not a hero standing outside creation, trying to save it. He's a thread within it, moving with the weave, trusting its design. This humility gives his wisdom its warmth. He never claims to understand the universe, he simply loves it, and that love becomes his form of understanding. As Jake ages, his perception deepens, his sight turns inward, but it never narrows. He begins to see his own life, his mistakes, his joys, his relationships, as expressions of the same cosmic rhythm he's always trusted. He recognizes that everything he's ever loved is part of the same infinite song. There's no separation between the laughter of his children, the light of the stars, and the pulse of his own heart. They're all the same thing, life noticing itself. And so, through Jake's eyes, we too learn to see differently. We learn that meaning doesn't have to be loud or grand. It can be as quiet as a breath, as small as a shared meal, as fleeting as a cloud. We learn that the universe doesn't demand comprehension, only participation. It invites us to look, to laugh, to love, and to rest. Jake's gift is not a new vision, but a clearer one. He doesn't change the universe. He helps us notice it. He teaches that the world has always been beautiful, that the extraordinary has always lived inside the ordinary. The stars aren't somewhere else. They're shining through the smallest moments of our lives. In the end, to see the universe through Jake's eyes is to see it with peace. No judgment, no hurry, just wonder. To look at existence not as a problem to solve, but as a song to hum along to. Jake never tries to make sense of it all. He just smiles, listens, and lets it be. Through his eyes, we're reminded that maybe the meaning of life isn't hidden in some faraway answer, but in the simple act of looking at the world and loving what we see. If every chapter of Jake's life teaches us how to live, Together Again is the chapter that teaches us how to love beyond the end of things. It's the quiet, cosmic epilogue to his story, not just a reunion between two brothers, but the completion of an entire philosophy. For Jake, life was always about connection, to laughter, to presence, to flow. Death doesn't interrupt that connection, it extends it. When he and Finn meet again, it isn't a miracle or a twist of fate, it's simply the natural continuation of what's always been true. Love, once real, doesn't end, it just changes form. Jake's afterlife isn't golden streets or eternal rest. It's peace, the same peace he carried in life, now reflected through eternity. When he drifts into the next world, he doesn't awaken as something different. He's still Jake, still calm, still curious, still glowing, with that easy joy that defined him. The realm around him feels like an extension of his own spirit, wide, warm, full of light and laughter. For Jake, heaven isn't a reward, it's recognition. The universe mirrors back what you gave it. Jake's peace creates a peaceful world. When Finn finds him, it's not as two souls discovering each other again, but as two energies rejoining. Their bond transcends time, distance, and death. The love they built through countless adventures, quarrels, lessons, and shared silences has become something larger than memory. It's part of the structure of the universe now. Every molecule of ooh hums with that connection, every echo of laughter between them still resonating through time. Jake doesn't have to remember Finn. He's always been with him. The beauty of their reunion lies in its simplicity. There are no dramatic speeches, no celestial fanfare, just two old friends smiling like waking from a nap and realizing your best friend was right there all along. It's tender, understated, and absolutely Jake. His reaction to death's greatest mystery is the same as his reaction to life's. Oh, cool. That simple acceptance, that childlike wonder, becomes the ultimate act of wisdom. In this final meeting, Finn carries all the questions Jake already answered. Finn's grief, his longing, his restlessness, they dissolve in the presence of Jake's calm. Jake doesn't lecture him or explain the secrets of the afterlife. He doesn't need to. His peace is explanation enough. By being exactly who he's always been, Jake shows Finn that love is not something you lose. It's something that transforms. Their connection, like Jake's body, stretches across worlds and returns whole. The world they inhabit together in the afterlife feels both infinite and familiar. A dream made from memory, a dimension shaped by emotion rather than logic. It's the kind of place Jake's spirit was always moving toward, even when he didn't realize it. The same cosmic rhythm that guided his naps and jokes now surrounds him completely. It's a place where time breathes in circles, where laughter never echoes because it never ends. In that realm, Jake doesn't need to search for meaning. He is the meaning, the quiet proof that peace can exist even at the edge of everything. For Finn, the reunion restores something deeper than companionship. Throughout his life, Jake had been his moral compass, his guide through the chaos of growing up. When Jake died, Finn lost not just a brother, but a mirror, the reflection that helped him stay grounded amid Oo's strangeness. Meeting again, Finn sees what Jake always saw, that love was never about permanence, but about continuity. Their reunion doesn't undo loss. It reveals that loss was never real in the first place. Nothing truly separate can ever stay apart. Jake's approach to this moment is deeply revealing. He doesn't treat the afterlife as a destination. He doesn't cling to it or question it. When Finn finds him, Jake has already made peace with existence beyond existence. He's learned that even death is part of the same pattern of flow he always trusted. The afterlife isn't an escape or an ending. It's just another room in the same vast house. Jake has been walking through doors like this his entire life, from one transformation to another, always smiling as he crosses the threshold. Their reunion is not about fixing anything, it's about recognition. Finn and Jake see each other fully, without the barriers of time or form. The distance between them, physical, emotional, even mortal, melts away. What remains is pure presence. In that moment, adventure time becomes what it has always been. A meditation on love's permanence within impermanence. The show that began with adventure ends with arrival. And it's Jake, more than anyone else, who shows what that arrival means. He and Finn's decision to move on together, to leave behind the endless cycles, to step into whatever lies beyond, reflects the final stage of Jake's wisdom. His entire life was a practice in release. From his carefree youth to his gentle fatherhood to his peaceful death, Jake's greatest lesson has always been letting go. Now, even in the afterlife, he continues that practice. He doesn't cling to eternity. He treats forever the same way he treated time, as something to enjoy, not to own. That moment when Jake reaches out to Finn is one of the purest images of love in the entire series. There's no fear, no hesitation, just quiet readiness. Jake isn't leading Finn into the unknown. He's walking beside him, as he always did. They're equals, two halves of the same journey, meeting once more in balance. Their embrace is the closure not just of their story, but of everything Jake ever stood for. Peace, acceptance, unity, flow. The reunion also completes Jake's symbolic arc as a bridge. In life, he bridged worlds, between species, between cultures, between chaos and calm. In death, he bridges the greatest divide of all, between the living and the dead, the finite and the infinite. And yet, for Jake, the act feels as natural as breathing. It's not defiance of death, it's inclusion. Death becomes another world he connects, another friend he greets. Through Finn's eyes, the moment feels miraculous. Through Jake's, it feels inevitable. He's been preparing for this his whole life, not through rituals or beliefs, but through everyday kindness. Every time he laughed instead of fought, rested instead of rushed, forgave instead of blamed, he was practicing for this reunion. His peace, with everything that came before, makes the transition seamless. He doesn't ascend to the afterlife. He continues into it with a grin and a stretch, like it's the next step in an unbroken journey. Their final act together, leaving behind the familiar and stepping into the unknown, is the culmination of all of Jake's teachings. He shows that peace isn't about knowing where you're going, it's about trusting the path. For Jake, the next world isn't a mystery to solve, but a continuation to enjoy. He's not seeking answers, because he already understands the only one that matters. Love is the constant. Everything else is just transformation. Even the universe itself seems to pause in reverence as they go. The light around them bends softly. The air hums with quiet joy. There's no fear in their departure, no tragedy, only serenity. Finn, the eternal hero, and Jake, the eternal friend, move forward together into whatever comes next, their laughter echoing softly as the scene fades. It's not an ending. It's a circle closing, a dream folding back into itself. For the audience, the moment lingers like an exhale. Jake's presence, his warmth, his humour, all of it remains, not as memory, but as feeling. He doesn't vanish, he expands. He becomes what he always was, part of the flow, part of the song, part of everything. And as we watch him and Finn disappear into the light, we realise that Jake has never really gone anywhere. He's in every moment of peace we find, every breath we take, every time we choose laughter over fear. Together again isn't just Jake's reunion with Finn. It's his reunion with the entire universe, with love, with time, with himself. His story ends where it began, not in battle, not in loss, but in companionship. The dog who once taught the world how to chill becomes the spirit who teaches it how to transcend. Jake's journey concludes the only way it ever could, gently, joyfully, completely. He doesn't fight the light. He walks into it with a smile, knowing that in the great stretch of existence, he and Finn will always find each other again. And in that truth, the universe feels a little softer, because Jake, in some small but eternal way, is still there, reminding it to take it easy. Jake the dog never stood on a mountaintop to deliver wisdom. He never claimed to be a teacher, a hero, or a sage. He just lived, easily, warmly, completely. And yet, through that simplicity, he became one of the most profound teachers the land of Oo ever knew. What Jake really taught us wasn't how to fight or win, or even how to understand the universe. It was how to live inside it with peace. His lessons don't come in speeches or prophecies. They're scattered quietly across his life, folded into laughter, naps, and gentle truths that the rest of the world was too busy to notice. What Jake taught us first, and perhaps most deeply, was to trust the flow of things. The world, he showed, doesn't need to be forced into meaning. It already has meaning, just by existing. Jake never fought the tide of life. When things were good, he basked in them. When they were difficult, he breathed through them. He didn't resist change because he understood that resisting life is resisting yourself. He accepted joy and pain with the same ease. And in that acceptance, he found something that everyone else in Oo seemed to be chasing, contentment. Jake also taught us that love doesn't have to hurt to be real. His relationship with Lady Rainicorn, his friendship with Finn, his devotion to his family, all of it was effortless, not because it lacked depth, but because it lacked fear. He never tried to control the people he loved. He didn't demand that they be constant or perfect or even near him. He simply loved them as they were. Through Jake, we learn that real love is gentle. It doesn't grab or clutch, it holds space. Love for him was never a possession, it was a presence. He showed us the same with his children. He didn't define success by how closely they followed his path. He defined it by their freedom to find their own. Jake's quiet trust in them and in everyone was radical. In a universe full of control and chaos, he chose faith. He knew that people, like rivers, find their way if you let them. He taught us that letting go is not losing someone. It's allowing them to become more fully themselves. Jake's humour, too, was a form of wisdom. He taught that laughter is not distraction, it's clarity. When things got dark, when Ooh trembled under the weight of absurdity or sorrow, Jake's jokes weren't denial, they were grace. They reminded everyone that pain isn't all there is. His laughter was his way of saying, we can still smile, even now. In a world that takes itself too seriously, Jake's ability to laugh was an act of resistance, not against the truth, but against despair. He also showed that wisdom doesn't always look serious. Sometimes it looks like taking a nap. Sometimes it looks like making a sandwich instead of solving a problem that can wait. Jake taught that balance isn't found through constant effort. It's found in knowing when to stop. He proved that rest is not laziness, it's harmony. His calm didn't come from ignorance, but from awareness. He saw that life already moves fast enough. The real art is in slowing down. If there's one thread that runs through all of Jake's lessons, it's the courage to be light. In a world shaped by wars, heartbreaks, and cosmic dread, being light is not easy. It's not apathy, it's strength. The strength to carry yourself gently, even when everything feels heavy. Jake's peace was never a shield against the world. It was an embrace of it. He didn't deny darkness. He accepted it as part of the same fabric as light. His calm came not from ignorance, but from intimacy with everything. The joy, the sorrow, the absurdity. Jake also taught us to see beauty without needing to explain it. He could look at a bug, a cloud, or a pile of pancakes and find wonder. That wonder wasn't childish, it was sacred. It came from seeing the universe without filters, without judgment. Through Jake's eyes, the world was never just background noise for adventure. It was the adventure. He taught that meaning isn't hidden in distant quests or cosmic truths. It's in the tiny, everyday moments we overlook. And then there was mortality, the lesson that all of us eventually must face. Jake faced it the way he faced everything, with ease. He showed us that death isn't something to conquer, but to understand. His peace with the end wasn't resignation, it was revelation. He accepted that the beauty of life depends on its brevity. He taught us that everything we love is temporary, and that's what makes it precious. Even in death, Jake continued teaching. When he met Finn again in the afterlife, he didn't bring answers or instructions. He brought presence. He reminded Finn, and us, that the bonds we form don't break when life does. They stretch, like his own body, across dimensions and lifetimes. The love he shared became the very bridge between worlds. His reunion with Finn wasn't about returning from death. It was about realizing that he'd never truly left. Jake's final lesson is perhaps his simplest and his hardest. That peace isn't something you find, it's something you allow. He spent his life allowing the world to be what it is, allowing people to be who they are, allowing himself to exist without constant struggle. His serenity didn't come from control, it came from surrender. He didn't resist the universe, he trusted it, and the universe, in turn, trusted him back. In the great stillness that follows his story, we begin to understand that Jake's wisdom was never about changing the world. It was about harmonizing with it. He didn't fight the current. He floated. He didn't force meaning. He lived it. He didn't seek enlightenment, he became it, one nap and one laugh at a time. Through Jake, Adventure Time revealed a truth rarely shown in stories about heroes, that a peaceful life can be just as brave as an epic one. That sometimes the most radical thing you can do is to relax, to love, and to trust that it's enough. Jake's life wasn't a monument to greatness. It was a quiet symphony, soft, honest, and whole. He didn't need to rise above the world. He rested within it. And by resting, he showed us the world's true shape, vast, forgiving, and endlessly alive. In the end, what Jake really taught us is that we are not here to conquer life. We are here to experience it, to stretch when we can, to rest when we must, to laugh when it hurts, and to love without fear of loss. He taught us that nothing is wasted, that peace is possible, and that connection to each other, to the moment, to the mystery, is what keeps everything together. He taught us that the meaning of life is not hidden in some distant truth, but right here, in the simple act of being. Jake lived, loved, and let go, and in doing so, he left us the only lesson that matters. Be here, be kind, and take it easy.